So there's a poll out from Edelman that shows that the American trust in the media is at an all-time low. As well, it should be. It was shared with Axios. Here is what the poll found. Apparently, the trust in traditional media, 46% of Americans say they trust traditional media. Presumably, they are all Democrats. Among Republicans, those numbers are abysmal. Only 18% of Republicans say they believe journalists after the 2020 election, which, I mean, hard to argue with that. Not sure why you would. The vast majority of members of the American public believe that journalists and reporters are purposely trying to mislead them. And 58% think news organizations are more interested in ideology than facts. 57% of Democrats trust the media. Shocker. Shocker. I can't believe it. You mean you trust the media because they tell you exactly what you want to hear all the time? But don't worry, there's no leftist bias in the media. Apparently, Republican trust in traditional media plunged following the 2020 election. But the truth is that plunge should have happened much earlier. The Republican belief in the veracity of the media, it found a 15-point drop in media trust among Trump supporters. Apparently, about 33% of Republicans used to trust the media. Now it's only about 18%. I'm not sure why anyone trusts the media to simply be objective. They simply are not. They are not objective in any way, shape, or form. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, every single day I show you clips of members of your esteemed journalistic media who are basically just doing dirty work for the Biden administration or for the Democrats or for the Biden campaign during the campaign. So, for example, here is CNN's Allison Camerata literally asking members of the Biden administration if they will retaliate against news networks if they lie. So here's CNN asking if the Biden administration is going to target Newsmax, OANN, and Fox News. Yeah, definitely I trust CNN. Absolutely objective people. No interest here. They are just truth tellers. By the way, that is unconstitutional. Okay, the Biden administration has no power to involve itself in these particular debates. Here's Allison Camerata pushing it anyway.
I heard that as a direct shot at some of the media companies that lied about the election results. We know who they are. I mean, they're right-wing companies. Some are more fringe than others at this point, or more, I guess, extreme than others. And so if they continue to engage in lies, something that he is trying to combat, what is your communication strategy? Will you deny those networks any interviews? I mean, what happens if they revert to form immediately?
So will you punish? Will you revert to form? Will you tell people that you won't interview with them because CNN doesn't like them? Please, will you do that? I mean, we are the truth tellers here at CNN. Everybody else on the other side, those are not truth tellers at all. CNN is the place you come for your news and also for your Kool-Aid from the left side of the aisle. Okay, so the funniest example of this over the past 24 hours, I thought this was hilarious. So there's a piece. Here's the title of the piece. It's by Margaret Sullivan. Margaret Sullivan is the media columnist for the Washington Post. And she has a piece that is titled, I kid you not, the media can be glad for the Biden White House's return to normalcy, but let's not be lulled. Okay, now if I just read you the title, you would think, presumably, that the piece is going to say to the media, yes, this is more of a return to normalcy. It's not quite as wild and crazy as the Trump years. It's not all about the tweets, but you still have to be watchdogs, right? Wouldn't you think that's the title of the piece, right? The media can be glad for the Biden White House's return to normalcy, but let's not be lulled. Wrong. Margaret Sullivan says, let's not be lulled into covering them with a harsh glare. Right? I have to read it to you because it is just so indicative of the mindset of the media. The media believe they were too hard on Obama, too hard on Hillary. That's why they got Trump. And the lesson of the Trump years is not that you should be aggressive with the White House in power. The lesson of the Trump years is that you should only be aggressive with people you disagree with politically. That is what Margaret Sullivan, the media columnist for the Washington Post, writes. Here's her take on it. You ready? White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was prepared. She was professional. She was non-combative. And she didn't peddle a whopper of the lie the way Sean Spicer did on day one 4 years ago with his alternative facts about the supposedly record-breaking size of the inaugural crowd. The first official words by President Biden's spokeswoman included truth and transparency. Rebuilding trust with the American people will be central to our focus, the former State Department spokeswoman told a small group of socially distanced reporters as she promised to return to daily briefings. In fact, Wednesday night's session with reporters, the first of the Biden administration, was so normal, so weirdly normal, that you could be forgiven for thinking you had mistakenly put on an old episode of The West Wing. My favorite thing about that is that she's touting The West Wing as like the way politics should work. It was a fantasy show written by Aaron Sorkin on behalf of Democrats. Like, but that's the way the reality should. I wish the reality were just The West Wing. Yes, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. The return to norms is wonderfully welcome after the horrors of the past 4 years. It's like running into a friend you haven't seen in 4 years, wrote Columbia University journalism professor William Gruskin. Well, okay, so here's where you think that the article is going to turn, right? Because here's what she says. It's also potentially dangerous. Okay, now here's where you think it's going to make the turn. Here's where you think she's going to say, yes, it's a return to normal, but we can't be lulled into a false sense of security. We still have to hold people in power accountable. Nope. That is not what she is going to say. She is going to say the opposite. Here we go. The national press, battered by 4 years of abuse by the president and by the incompetence and falsehoods of his spokespeople, is in a precarious position. We run the risk of being seduced by an administration that, in many cases, closely reflects our values. Multiculturalism, a belief in the principles of liberal democracy, a kind of wonky idealism. So she's openly admitting, by the way, that the media and Biden are the same, right? And she says, the commentary from TV broadcasters across the board all day long was at times embarrassingly complimentary. Maybe that's fine for a day or two while everyone takes a few sighs of relief that democracy has survived its stress test. But soon, I'd guess another normal return. The desire to appear combative and to blow things out of proportion to demonstrate toughness. She's chiding the media before they do it with being too combative with Biden after they basically provided him sexual favors on the day of the inauguration. That's what Margaret Sullivan is doing here. She says, you know what? You guys, we spent the last 48 hours celebrating with Biden and treating Biden with kid gloves. And, we have to be really careful here not to stop treating him with kid gloves. Because journalists pride themselves, says Margaret Sullivan, media columnist for the Washington Post, on being tough and objective, they like to take an adversarial-seeming approach, especially to the party in power or the candidate with whom they most identify. And of course, actually holding power to account is the most important job journalists have. It's what we're here for. But there's a difference between truly holding power to account and grandstanding. It's the latter that gave rise to ridiculous dust-ups like the one over President Barack Obama's wearing of a tan suit, not to mention the vast and shameful overplaying of the Hillary Clinton email scandal during the 2016 campaign. The national media, says Margaret Sullivan, should show toughness, but of a different sort. If they've learned the lessons of the past 4 years, and I confess I have my doubts, they'll do things differently. They will resist false equivalency. For example, they'll think twice before they put a reality-denying senator like Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley on the air. They will clearly call out lies. They will identify racism or white supremacy by using plain language instead of euphemism. It's amazing. It's just amazing. So the media have gone into full-blown best little whorehouse in Texas mode. And Margaret Sullivan is like, yes, but could we add some services on top of that to really make sure that we are doing our job here? The last thing we need is for you to even pretend to do your job. The real problem here is that you're probably going to start going soft on Republicans. That's probably the big problem here. So let's go harder on Republicans, and let's not cover any of the things that Biden... do you know how in the bubble you have to be to believe this? These folks have decided beforehand, in preordained fashion, the Biden administration is transparent, wonderful, factual, and the biggest risk is that you will create a false equivalency between people who disagree with Biden and Biden, because, of course, we all know on an objective level that Biden is wonderful and amazing and truly spectacular. They're just fanboys. They should just write fanzines. Everything the media write these days, and I think, honestly, since the Obama era, everything that they write is essentially just In Touch magazine about these folks. It's incredible. It's incredible.